to show you, but let's go back to this one. So I can select iPhone, right? And then if I go back to home, this shows me my last cookie. So on the default page, you're going to try and read the cookie when the page loads. All right. On the View Books page, or the book list page, right? When you select, you're going to create the cookie. Okay. I don't want that one again, so let me get another one. All right. So let's try this one. All right. So that's what you have to keep in mind. Just remember that. And then you have a button here to delete the cookie. To delete the cookie, you have to set the expiration to now. Remember, you have to add days or minutes or hours to your cookie to keep it alive or to keep it out there. If the expiration is now, expires.now, then the cookie, expires. So that's when I do. When I click on delete cookie, I have, cookie expires now, and it's gone. All right, so there you go. All right, so that's the cookie part of it. Now we have to get to the application variable. To do that, we need to get into the admin side of things. So I have my link here that's going to take me to my login screen right here, or login page. And I'll show you that in a second. I'll go through some code here in a little bit. So if I click on that, notice I have a different background so I can distinguish where I am. So let's log in. And I'm using the same email, but I have two different passwords. So I'm a reviewer and a administrator. And then if I've logged in correctly, I should get this. Went over this, I think, in class. And now this is the same thing as before, only I've added a tools menu item, site message. So, sale today only, 10% off any book. Okay, and I'll set the message. Now, and also you can clear the message. So this is setting an application message or application variable so that anybody coming into the site will see it. All right, now if I go here, I've also added a menu item under home to go back to the customer site. All right, so I go back to the customer site. And now in the master page, I have a label that will show me my application message. Okay, so that's basically it. So now let's take a look at some of the modifications I made. All right. So let's take a look at the database first. So some of the database changes. Let's take a look at this. All right, so what I did for the database, I have my accounts table. And I can't remember if we had that before or not, but you want to add an accounts table. And let me go back and do design view. So you can see what I have here: account ID, first name, last name, email address, password, and last visit. Right? Books should be familiar. You put your books in there, right? And I've got, and you should be able to use your web page to do that, right? Then the next one is the log file, which we haven't done yet. Publishers should be there, right? That's fine. Ratings. This is when you click on your ratings. This is what you get. So you're going to add, the book ID, the rating that the person gave it, the rating date, and here's the reviewer, right? When I logged in as the account, here's my reviewer ID. Oops, not reviewer. That's account ID. Sorry, reviewers. When I create here's my reviewers table. So now I'm a reviewer, right? When I log in and create a reviewer account, here's my reviewer ID, 329. So that's the person who has reviewed all these textbooks, all right? So the question is, I need to create a query then to average out, what the ratings are, and also to get a count for how many ratings there are for each book. So I've created a query for that in the database. Can you do it in the database? So let's do a design view for that. And in the design view, you can see I'm using the ratings table, and I had to click on the sum icon up here to provide the total field here. And we're going to group by book ID, and we're going to get a count, right? Let's see if I can spread this out. And we're going to call it rating, and then we're going to do a rating average, and we have the function average. So you can do the drop down here and see what you're going to get: average, min, sum, count, whatever it is. Now you could change this, right? If you want to go into view SQL, you can get a better idea what it's going to look like here, and you can actually modify it if you need to, right? So it just says select ratings book, that's the table, book ID, count the rating as, and here's the field name that you can use in your code now, as, because it's a computed field, so it's not a field in a table, you have to give it a name. So it's a computed field, so we're going to do count ratings as, and this is the field name that we're going to use for that count. Then comma average ratings, right? So as rating average and group by book ID. So the group by puts it together, right? If I just run this query right now, you can see what happens in here. So I have 3 books that have been reviewed. This book here has 3 ratings, and there's the average. All right, so you can see that. So you want to create your query in your table like that. See if you can get that to work. All right. So that's the database part of it. Okay. The login page we went over in class. I should have examples in our code about that on how to do that. Right. But there's a problem actually. Let me go back to the database. There's one problem that sometimes you'll run into when you do your data, and one of them is apostrophes. Sometimes databases and cookie and other, I don't know, sometimes you have to code around apostrophes. Notice I have you'll here go pop up. Okay, so the apostrophe can be a problem with a lot of browsers and coders because it thinks it's something else. Same with like greater than signs. You have to like encode it or decode it. And so let's just show you what that means. Right. So right now when I run this, you'll see what happens here. When I go back to view books and I select the first one, remember this has the apostrophe in it, select, right? And I get that. But then when I go to cookies, because I wrote the cookie, notice it didn't come in and it blew up. Couldn't give me the image. All right. All right. So then, well, why does this happen? Let's take a look at what's going on. And what I have here is I created a file over here, HTML page, just an HTML page. And on the design page, I just put in a single quote. And then I looked at the source. What HTML was generated? Well, it was ampersand # 39. All right. So hex value, I believe, of 39. Okay. So it's been encoded. And then if I preview this if I had the page out there and I previewed that sentence, that title, you would see this in the HTML. Okay, so the way to get around that is, and I've got a website out here that will show you, and I'll put this link out there. Is you want to go, it's .netpearls.com encode.html string. So what they're showing you here is if you had greater than signs, apostrophes, things like that are throwing you off, you can do server.html encode or server.html decode. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to copy this little thing there, and then on my title, and you probably want to do this on all of them, but if I go back to default, actually when I set it is where I want to go. So here's my cookie. I'm going to I'm getting the cookie here, right? Actually, I think that should be, should be set cookie, not get cookie. But let's put this in here like this. Remember, it didn't work before, so I'll put in the server.html decode, and then the parentheses around this, right, and save it in the book list. So not in the default, but when I set the cookie, I'm decoding it. So now if I go back here and go back to my local host, go to home, I'm at home now, review, select, right, works fine. I got, the grid view displays fine, the commas or the apostrophes, no problem. Go to home, and now it works fine. Okay, so that's one thing you may need to do. All right, so that's sort of it in a nutshell. We can go over some more things with code, but I kind of wanted to just show you all. Here's the HTML that you might see. This is what the place is, and the .39, right? So I had that out here from a previous example. All right, so basically you're going to copy it over, create the book list, create another master file for this, right? And a style sheet, and set it up that way so that you can do all your managed state with application session, cookies, and query strings, right? So basically, again, on the reviewer thing, let's go to the book list thing, right? When I look in here, just a quick view, when I go load, basically I'm going to check to see if the session for the viewer ID is null. If it is, I'm going to make the panel, either visible or invisible depending on the state of that. Okay. I've also created my own little methods here, get book stats. So this is very similar to the login, how to do the login. And notice the other thing I'm trying to do here is I'm going to format them using the string.format so that I get 2 decimal places. So that's another thing I want to try and do. All right. And then I have my get cookie routine or method. And so when the index, when it changes on the grid view, I'm going to make the image of the book visible. I'm going to set that image URL to whatever's in the grid view. There's a cell, like cell 6 contains the file name for the thumbnail. So I'm going to relate that to the image. I'm going to get my stats and get my cookie. All right, so that's kind of what's going on there. All right, so I think you can figure out the rest on your own. I want you to try and create this. Sort of mimics a sort of a real site where you have a content management system.